Did Sony secretly fix one of the PS5's biggest issues? There's a really cool way you can cheat in Returnal. We've got an update on the Avengers game that's actually positive, and are even more PS5 games coming to PC. And real quick before we get into this PlayStation news, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications set to all. So one of the cooler first party games that's come to the PS5 this year is Returnal. It came out really early in the year, and I think it sold just around okay, and I think the reason for that is that it's a roguelite. So when you die, you essentially have to start the entire game over, or at least the area of the game you're in. One of the biggest frustrations with that roguelite design that the game had was the fact that a full run of Returnal from start to finish could take anywhere from like 5 to 7 hours, and if you turned your PS5 into rest mode, a lot of the time when you turned it back on, the game would crash and you'd have to start all over, and you'd lose all the upgrades you got in that current run. So Housemarque, the people who made the game, have updated it a few times since it came out, and they fixed that whole crashing thing for the most part, but they just released a 2.0 update for the game that allows you to create save states so you don't have to worry about your console shutting off and ruining your save anymore. Now initially this seemed pretty cool because it seemed like you could just make saves throughout the game, but then people realized no, you can only have one save state at any given time, and once you use that save state it deletes it and you'll have to create a new one. So it's like you can't save scum it like something like XCOM 2 where if you die you're dead, that's it, you have to start over. But it seems like Housemarque didn't think this one too far ahead, because people were very easily able to figure out a way to exploit this, because when you do the save state it actually creates a save for the game that saves to your PS5 console. So if you go to the home screen when you make your save state and upload it to the cloud, when you die you can actually just download that save state from the cloud and pick up from where you left off. Now obviously that's going to set you back to where you like saved initially, so any progress you made after that and then died will be gone, but if you were really far in the game when you created that save, you're going to have at least a little bit of a head start on that run, and you could get farther the next time you try it. Like if you got to a particularly difficult enemy and you didn't have enough health to fight it, you could just download that save state from the cloud, start from where you started before, make your way back to that enemy, and make sure you have enough health to beat it. Man, that is a hard sentence. Now it's obviously kind of annoying whenever these exploits or hacks or cheats or whatever you want to call them come up, because then IGN catches wind of it, Kotaku catches wind of it, they write an article about it, then Sony finds out about it, they tell Housemarque, and then a patch comes out a couple days later that fixes the issue. But I don't think it's going to be that easy to do with this game, because it really is just creating a hardware level save for Returnal that deletes itself when you use it. So they really have to figure out something even more wily to get it to not be able to be uploaded to the cloud, I think. And honestly, it doesn't seem like it's breaking the game all that much, because again, you have to go back to that save. It's not like you can make a bunch of progress, die, download the save, and picked up from where you died, right? You'd have to keep making saves, keep going to your home screen, keep uploading them to the cloud, and then when you die, you have to keep downloading them. So if people want to go through a process like that, I feel like Housemarque should let them. It honestly seems like the most annoying and not fun way to play the game, and really, it's not that hard. It's a pretty challenging game. Like when you get to boss fights, it's definitely going to take you a couple tries to get through those moments, but like if you persevere, it's going to feel like when you beat a boss in Dark Souls, and to me at least, that's part of the fun in the game. So yeah, I feel like Housemarque is probably just going to leave this one alone and just let people who want to play the game the worst way possible do it, and they're just robbing themselves of the experience, so who cares? Normally I would wait a little bit to cover something like this, but I saw it was already on every website on the internet, and honestly guys, I don't think I'm going to be the one that lets Housemarque know this is happening. I don't think Sony's watching my videos just yet. But yeah, if you haven't played Returnal yet, it's one of my favorite games of the year, and this one's been out long enough where I feel like it's going to drop down to a pretty low price for Black Friday, and if it does, we'll have it linked down in the description. So a game that kind of feels like it's simultaneously my favorite game to talk about and my least favorite game to talk about is Marvel's Avengers from Square Enix. So this one's been on a roller coaster of PR, going good to bad to good to bad for the past few months, or really the whole entire year or so it's been out, because just a few months ago they released the War for Wakanda expansion, and people were like, yeah, this is a great platform for the game. You guys are meeting deadlines, you're adding events to the game, you're adding in MCU skins, we're having a ton of fun with it. And then they added it to Game Pass, and people were like, yeah, we're bringing up the player base. Everyone's having a good time being able to find matchmaking on Xbox because everyone bought this game on PS5 for Spider-Man and it has no crossplay. So they were doing some cool stuff there, and then they added paid microtransaction boosts for XP to the game, and everyone was like, wait, hold up. There's a few reasons those paid XP boosts were a big issue for people. First of all, this game is a full priced game, and I know you can get it on sale for like 20 bucks all the time now, but still you have to buy the game outright. And yeah, you can say that they made all the expansions free, which is cool, but then again, every skin for this game you have to buy. There's no real way to earn skins in game without spending a little bit of money. So even though they added it to Game Pass, which I guess you could argue makes it a free-to-play game, it's not like Square Enix didn't get any money for that from Microsoft, so it feels kind of scummy for them to come to Crystal Dynamics and say, yeah, we got this game on Game Pass, we got a bunch of new players, let's exploit them by making it so they have to pay for XP boosts to get to where everyone else is at in the game. And really, it's even worse when you consider that earlier this year, they updated the game and made the XP grind even harder, and then after they did that, they added in this Paragon system that you essentially need to max out to have any competitive edge in the raid. The raid is super annoying, the Omega level threat, it's nearly impossible to find a competent group, and unless you have a Thor that can just DPS kill the boss within one phase, you're not going to finish it because people will leave, and it's super frustrating. So anyway, those XP boosts were added into the game like 3 weeks ago, and Crystal Dynamics just kept uploading skins to the store for real money and didn't really acknowledge it, and then they just came on the subreddit and were like, hey, people are being mean to our devs and that's not okay. It's like, yeah, that's not okay, but you have not acknowledged the massive problem you have with your game, and that's also very bad. But then 3 weeks later, like 2 days ago at this point when we're filming, they came out and said, yeah, we thought about it, these paid XP boosts are being taken out of the game because they're pay to win, and we didn't understand it when we put it in, but yeah, it's pay to win, we're gonna take it out. And honestly, I don't necessarily believe that they didn't see it as pay to win, because it's pretty objectively pay to win. It's like black and white, it's not really a gray area, and if you consider this problem compared to all the other problems this game has, it is really the tip of the iceberg. They refuse to fix the issues that have been plaguing this game since it came out. They're late on deadlines, usually. They got better at it by the time the War for Wakanda expansion came out, but still, they're usually late on deadlines. Spider-Man is coming out November 30th, and we haven't even seen what he looks like in the game, which is super frustrating. The Wakanda raid is also coming out November 30th, but there's still the raid from when the game came out that they never released, the AIM cloning lab, and at this point, I wish they would just say they're gonna cancel it. And it just seems like Square Enix is done with this. They came out in an earnings report and just called the game a massive disappointment and said, yeah, we probably shouldn't have put this single player studio that's only ever made single player games on a games as a service model because they don't really know what they're doing. They really threw Crystal Dynamics under the bus, and if I worked there, I would be pretty upset about that. I'd be like, man, we don't even have support from our publisher who paid for this game. Like, it's just a bad situation all around. And then on the other end of it, Square Enix just released Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a single player narrative game. It really feels like Eidos Montreal just made an Uncharted game that has the Guardians of the Galaxy in it, and it's great. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm super biased. I was hoping for this game to be like a 6 out of 10. I've been playing it a ton. It might be my game of the year. It has just got everything I want from a video game. It's single player. You can find a ton of cool skins and outfits in levels. The combat is super fun. The writing is great. The Guardians of the Galaxy are all really fleshed out super well. They don't feel like weird uncanny valley versions of the MCU characters like the ones in Avengers do. It just works. And I don't know why Square Enix didn't just do that with Avengers, because the character kits in that game are very fun. It would have made a much better co-op brawler. Hell, they could have even called it Ultimate Alliance 3 if Nintendo didn't make that themselves. But yeah, speaking of Marvel games, Spider-Man 2 is coming up, and if you've got someone in your life who's really excited for that game, you should probably check out this shirt that we have down in the merch shelf underneath the video. And also, if you're a YouTube Premium subscriber, it's linked in the description. So I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple months back, there was a huge NVIDIA Geforce leak that came out that had a whole bunch of games that were coming to PC in the future, and a lot of them were like unannounced games that were really cool. There was a Bloodborne port on there, there was a God of War port on there, and since then, a lot of the release dates on that list have come out to be true, but a lot of them have also been false. And then again, like a lot of them, you could just look at the list and be like, oh, this was already announced. You can make a pretty well-educated guess of when this game would come to PC. But then now we have a new leak that has even more release dates on it, and this one seems even more real than the last one. On the Xbox side of things, there's a ton of release dates, and some of them really stand out to me as fake, like Gear 6 coming out in 2022. That doesn't make any sense because the Coalition just said that they're not really working on Gears 2 actively right now, and they're working on another IP. So that one coming out in November of 2022, that stands out as fake. But if you look at the rest of the list, a lot of the release dates on there make a lot of sense, like specifically Redfall coming in June. I feel like that's just gonna happen. Now on PlayStation, it seems pretty real because there are a lot of release dates that make a lot of sense, but then they don't have games on there that are announced. Like God of War is coming to PC in January, and it's not even on this list. But after that, we have the Uncharted 4 collection that has Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy. Then we have Ghost of Tsushima coming later that month. It looks like, if this list is to be believed, next year is going to be a blowout year for PlayStation, just putting all of their big games on PC. And again, it seems real. It could be fake. I really take this stuff with a grain of salt, but Sony just made a new like arm of their company called PlayStation PC, and that kind of says, yeah, they're gonna work harder to get their games on PC faster than they have before. Death Stranding Director's Cut's another one on that list that I think could really come to PC, because Death Stranding came to PC a lot faster than all these other PlayStation games did. I don't know if that would be published by PlayStation PC or by 505 Games like the original release was, but I would still expect to be able to see that on PC eventually. They've got Returnal listed for April 30th, 2022, which again would make sense because that's basically a full year after it came out on PS5. Horizon Forbidden West is slated for later next year, which again isn't a full year after the game comes out, which makes me a little suspect of it, but it makes a lot of sense to me because Horizon Zero Dawn is already on PC, A, and B, you would assume that Sony having that game on PC already, they've already announced how much money they made off of it on PC. It was like 150% return on investment. They would probably want to greenlight the PC version of its sequel a lot faster. Honestly, the big one that stands out to me as a little bit too long to wait is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. That one's listed for next October to come to PC. You would think they would probably want to get it in the PC ecosystem around June, because that's when Ratchet & Clank came out on PS5. But again, there's so many more games on this list coming to PC than we got this year. I think this year we only got like 2 from Sony, so having that many split up, I feel like they can play around with the release dates. Either way, I hope all these games are coming to PC. It's just going to get more money in Sony's pockets. It's going to help them greenlight more games. It doesn't hurt the PlayStation ecosystem in any way, and honestly, it probably helps Sony sell more PS5s, because if you have to wait almost a full year to play these games on PC, and you play like the first one, right? You play God of War in January, and you're like, well, I don't want to wait a whole year to play God of War Ragnarok. That's probably going to get someone to go out and buy a PS5. And then you got to consider that a lot of people can't even find PS5s right now, and Sony makes all of their money on games anyway. So if they can keep people happy by just releasing these games on PC, it kind of seems like a no-brainer, you know what I mean? It's not like they're making all that much money on the consoles anyway. So earlier this year, there was this weird trend that popped up where hating on Sony was the cool thing to do, and all these websites were coming up with all these different reasons to just rail on Sony. And one of the bigger ones that seemed like a legitimate reason to be upset was the CMOS battery thing. Basically, the like long and short of it was there's a battery on the motherboard of the PS3, PS4, and PS5 that sets with the internal clock, and if that battery dies, the internal clock of the motherboard is going to go out of sync, and then you're not going to be able to play your digital games. On the PS3, that was a big issue because there's no backwards compatibility to PS3. Obviously on PS4, that's an issue because that's a console where everyone started downloading games to it directly instead of playing off the disc. And then on the PS5, you can buy a digital edition of that console that doesn't even have a disc drive, so obviously if the CMOS battery dies in that, you're essentially screwed. So basically what Sony did is, instead of acknowledging the issue and creating a PR disaster for themselves, they quickly got to work making updates for both the PS3 and PS4 that somehow circumvent this issue. I don't really understand the technical aspect of it, and I didn't really look too far into it, just being honest with you guys, but the point of the matter here is that Sony has been fixing the issue pretty rapidly, and they just released an update to the PS5 in the background secretly that fixes the problem there as well. So if you're one of those people who has a digital PS5 and you were sitting there thinking, man, I'm probably going to end up buying a disc version of the PS5 from a scalper, or maybe when the PS5 Pro comes out, I'll get the disc version of that, even though I really love the digital version, I think you're going to be safe, at least for now. And honestly, it seems like Sony going forward is going to do a better job of making sure their newer consoles are backwards compatible. We're seeing that now with the PS5 being backwards compatible with like literally every game that ever came out on the PS4 except for like 3 games. And I'm sure whenever the PS6 comes out, they'll make sure that's at least backwards compatible with the PS5 and PS4, because these things are essentially PCs at this point, so it's a lot easier to make those games work on newer consoles than something like the PS3. I think we'll start seeing PS1, PSP, PS Vita, and PS3 and PS2 games on the PS5 eventually, but they're probably waiting for the slim premium and pro models of the console just to get a little more power out of them, because emulating PS3 games is extremely hard, and if you can launch it all at once with literally the entire back catalog of the PlayStation ecosystem, that's going to be a huge PR win for them. I mean, we already saw how that went on the Xbox side of things. People were stoked last generation when backwards compatibility started going all the way back to the original Xbox, so Sony could get the same hype on their side. But yeah, it looks like that strategy of just staying quiet, doing these updates in the background, and moving on with your games really worked well for Sony, because people are hyped for the PS5 again. It's going to be the hottest thing you can buy this fall. Sony literally just packed 3 cargo planes with PS5s top to bottom to make sure at least a few people can get them for the holiday season this year. It seems like everything is going good on their end, and then in February we've got Horizon Forbidden West to look forward to, and that's awesome. Anyway guys, that's all the PlayStation news I have for you today. Make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below, and remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.